next question was about DRP. I do understand the whole concept, but when it came to the questions, that's where one question came in my mind was, it was originally invented because the flood happened in 2013. In the floodway, they were trying to repair and recover the properties that were in floodway, which is the highest point of danger. In the flood fringe, they wanted to put flood mitigation measures. Now, if DRP gets discharged, flood fringe properties can get it again. So in the notes, it doesn't say it that way, but in the questions, it says it that way. So could you explain that part?
Yes. So I had to get my mouse out for this. That's why I was
Sorry.
bending. So I can, no, that's okay. So I can explain it on the whiteboard. It's just easier to do it with a mouse than trying to
Okay.
draw without it. Again. So what we're talking about here, just first of all, to explain it to everybody, we're talking about DRP, disaster recovery funding.
Program.
So a program funding, yeah. So when floods happened in Calgary in 2015, there were a lot of flooding, a lot of properties that were in the flood areas, they got flooded, and the insurance didn't cover stuff, so government had to step in and provide funding to these home owners in that area to kind of help them with the flooding. So how does this work? So disaster recovery, first of all, DRP funding it only applies to, like, it's called a 100-year flood. So basically it's an event that doesn't happen all the time. So it's so uncommon that it happens once in the 100 years, right? So that's what the main application there. So basically there are two different things to keep in mind here. So let's say this is a river. Okay. Now, this is a river, so pretend it goes on forever. So this is a river, and now we have areas that are right beside the river here. So that's known as what's this known as, Suhani?
Water bodies, you mean? Oh,
No,
sorry.
no,
Which
right
one?
beside. Hmm?
Right beside would be the floodway.
Yes. So
And
floodway and flood fringe, right?
yeah.
So basically, the concept here is that the areas that are right on the river, right? They are on the river bank. Those areas are highly likely to get flooded. So if another flood happened, the chances of these areas getting flooded very, very high. So what the government said was basically anybody who is in the floodway where the water causes the most destruction, it's the fastest, it's most destructive, it is going to get flooded, right? So in those areas, government gave one-time help, and they said, okay, we will help you to build your properties or recover from the flood once, right? After that, it is your choice whether you want to stay there or not, right? So if another flood happened, we are not going to give you any more money. We are going to register our DRP on the title, so that if the property gets flooded again, the government will pull the title. They will see a DRP registration. That means you got the money once and you still decided to stay. Now it's on you, right? So those people in the floodway will not get, if the house is in the floodway, they're not going to get the money again because they knowingly are making that decision to stay there, right? So that's the DRP registration on the title that will stay on the title. They got the money to basically recover their properties to the state that they were in before. Now, beyond that, there is this area known as, this is the flood fringe, right? This area is further away, and the chances of this getting flooded are lower, right? So it could get flooded, but the chances are lower. So if the flood got all this way, the water got all this way, and these properties got destroyed, so in that case, the government said, okay, we are going to give you money, one, to recover the property to the state that was in before, plus you have to put flood mitigation measures in place. That means you're going to build maybe some sort of a retaining wall, or something over here that will make it so that the water doesn't get through, right? So next time flooding happens, the water will bounce off of this, and it will not get through, right? So those are called flood mitigation measures. So there are two things that they were given the funding for. One was to prevent the flood water from getting into the property, and second was to fix the property. So in these cases, if they just fix the property, then the DRP registration would go on their title, and they would not get the money in the future because government said, we gave you the money and you chose not to take preventative measures. Okay. So in that case, the water will only, the DRP registration will stay on the title. But if these people took the money, fixed the house, and included flood mitigation measures in place, so that means they did whatever the government asked them to do in order to prevent future flooding, then that DRP notice was removed from the title. And in that case, they will, should there be another flood 20 years down the road, even though they received money previously, they will receive money again because they did take the measures that the government suggested, but unfortunately, they still got flooded, right? So that's the difference. If it's a difference, if it's in the flood zone, doesn't matter if they are trying to put flood mitigation measures in, the water is going to get through, it's going to run right through those measures, and it will get flooded. So the government is saying, we're not taking responsibility for it. We're going to put a DRP notice on the title so that we know next time that you have used the money once and you will not get access to it again. But if you're on the flood fringe, then as long as you fix your property and you install this flood mitigation measures, then we're going to. So initially, when they gave the money, they put the DRP notice on the title. When these people proved that they had installed these flood mitigation measures so that they can prevent future flooding, then they took that off of the title. So there was no DRP notice. So in case there's a flood again, then they will get the money. Make sense, Vani?
Okay, so that was just one thing that they were given extra. If they did the mitigation plus the fix, they can DRB goes away and then they can get it again if things were to go wrong. But if they only did the fixing and no mitigation, then no DRP. I mean, no future again DRP, but the DRP still stays on the title. If you only did the fixing, no mitigation, right? If you only did just fixing,
yeah,
no
if there's no
improvement,
mitigation,
prevent.
yeah. And then there's
Okay,
a
and
question here that government it's based on whether the property is in the floodway, not in the ownership. Absolutely. So when that seller sells the property to new owner, the buyer's agent or the buyer will see that and the lawyer will see that there's a DRP note registration on the title, and that conversation will then have to be had with the buyer, right? That these people received the funding, and therefore you will not get, should there be flooding again, you are not going to receive any kind of funding. And are you still okay with that?